Chapter 1801. Give me a reason for the battle in the Buddhist Demon Sea back then. Jian Wushuang had used all his tricks and also destroyed all his 6 stars. In the end, even with the King of Venomous Worms helping him to recover with its full power, he had still used a total of close to 8,000 years to recover completely. This time around, although only 2 stars were destroyed, his abilities as a whole still increased greatly at once. The moment 2 of his ancient god stars were destroyed, Jian Wushuang's ancient god power skyrocketed. As for the lofty continent which was descending with a rumbling sound, its power also rose greatly. Upon seeing the changes in the lofty continent, even Dao Yuanzi's expression changed slightly. Looks like he has prepared to give his all. However, this is still not enough. Dao Yuanzi laughed indifferently. Not enough? Then how about this? Jian Wushuang's voice turned heavy and an unusual power appeared from his body instantly. This power was the star power. Jian Wushuang's strongest trump card, the secret skill of Star Palace, was unleashed abruptly at this moment. Boom! The universe shook. With the addition of the star power, the power of the lofty continent, which was already extremely powerful to begin with, rose 100 times instantly. The third move of the 9-province seal with 100 times more power. It was Jian Wushuang's strongest attack. For this attack, Jian Wushuang even had the confidence that it could kill a top emperor god. As for Dao Yuanzi, who had always been extremely calm and collected, when he realized that the power of the lofty continent above him had increased by 100 times, his expression finally changed. The secret skill of 7-star. This is the secret skill of 7-star of the 7-star Black Sect. How is this possible? Dao Yuanzi was gasping with astonishment. He had absolute confidence in his own abilities. Even if Jian Wushuang was stronger than him in terms of power, he did not care at all. Even when Jian Wushuang took out the mountain river map and unleashed a powerful killing move, he could still be unconcerned as he could block it easily. For example, he had blocked the second move of the 9-province seal easily. As for the third move, it was still within his abilities to block it. However, if the power of such a move were to rise by 100 times, it would be completely different. He was no doubt an expert from the ancient past. However, in the end, his abilities had not recovered yet and there was a huge gap between them in terms of power. As for Jian Wushuang's current attack, it relied completely on power to suppress him. Moreover, such a power had also caused Dao Yuanzi to be terrified. I will be unable to guard against this attack. Dao Yuanzi had already had such a thought. Jian Wushuang, please stop quickly. We shall call it a day here and from now on, we shall mind our own business. I will not kill anyone from your green fire world again. Dao Yuanzi's voice, which was obviously filled with anxiety, resounded across the universe. What a joke. Jian Wushuang was filled with murderous intent. If you were to really force me, after my abilities have recovered, I will definitely turn all the living beings in your green fire world into power. Dao Yuanzi continued shouting. HMH. Why not say that after you survive this attack of mine? Jian Wushuang ignored him. Damn it. Dao Yuanzi's expression changed greatly. As the lofty continent got closer and closer, he became even more frightened. Moreover, he had a strong feeling of death due to the incoming danger. Devil's heavenly hand. With cracking sounds, a scarlet giant arm appeared from Dao Yuanzi's body. The arm contained an enormous amount of demonic energy and it attacked with lightning speed with the intention of smashing the lofty continent which was descending into pieces. Bam! With a loud sound, the 2 attacks finally clashed head-on. As soon as they clashed, a tremendous divine power storm was generated and it covered a range of 1,000,000 miles. Vast black holes then appeared continuously and they destroyed everything in the surrounding mercilessly. As for the ground below them, it caved in completely. It was the end of the world. In a void which was extremely far away from the battlefield, many experts from the Green Fire Palace were looking at the scene in front of them with an unprecedented amount of shock. The scene in front of them was really too frightening. Within the range of 1,000,000 miles, a huge amount of divine power was jumping about madly. The large number of experts from the Green Fire Palace all felt that if they were to step into the 1,000,000 miles range, they would be sliced by the boundless divine power storm into pieces. Such a shocking battle had completely exceeded the standards that the Green Fire world could achieve. Is Dao Yuanzi dead? Countless people were murmuring, and they were all waiting for the results. After a long time, the divine power storm, which covered a range of 1,000,000 miles, finally subsided and everything dissipated. On the battlefield, there were still 2 figures standing. However, the only difference was that one of the figures still stood in the void while the other one had fallen into the underground, and he was barely standing deep inside the underground. Damn it! Dao Yuanzi's expression was ghastly pale and his body was filled with blood. He was in an extremely miserable state. At that moment, he was gritting his teeth tightly and his body was also shaking madly. Swoosh! The shadow in the void floated over slowly. Jian Wushuang's ice-cold eyes were staring at Dao Yuanzi. Under such a kind of attack, you are still able to remain alive. As expected of an expert from the ancient past, Jian Wushuang's voice was ice-cold. Damn it. If not for me being seriously injured to begin with and the fact that I had only recovered to early-stage chaotic realm, do you think that you would be able to defeat me? Dao Yuanzi shouted furiously. Indeed, if you were at your peak where your abilities had recovered to the middle-stage chaotic realm that you mentioned, in a situation where our powers are equally powerful, I would definitely be unable to do anything against you even if I were to use all my trump cards. However, it's a pity as you will not have that opportunity. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold. He then moved his legs and moved toward Dao Yuanzi slowly. A shocking murderous intent also appeared from Jian Wushuang's body slowly. Upon seeing that, Dao Yuanzi's eyes shrank violently. At the same time, he was also terrified. During the clash moments ago, he was seriously injured by Jian Wushuang again. With him getting more injuries on top of his previous injuries. At that time, he was totally unable to unleash any more fighting capabilities. As for Jian Wushuang, although he had used his trump card, he still had an abundance of fighting capabilities. Hence, at that moment, it would be easy for Jian Wushuang to kill him. Jian Wushuang, let's have a discussion, Dao Yuanzi said immediately. Jian Wushuang did not stop moving and his ice-cold voice spread to him. Are you begging me to spare your life? Ha ha, give me a reason to not kill you. A reason? Dao Yuanzi was stunned. After thinking quickly, he said right away, I am willing to surrender to you. In the future, I will follow all your orders. No matter what you want me to do, I will not say no to you. If you are not confident in me, you can leave a seal or a soul stamp in my body. In the future, I will absolutely not dare to go against you again. Jian Wushuang's face was indifferent and he did not stop walking. Jian Wushuang, you should know that when I was at my peak, I reached the limit of the chaotic realm. If my abilities were to recover completely, I could definitely be of great help to you. In addition, I could even help you to govern this era so that you will be able to become this era's strongest expert, Dao Yuanzi said pressingly. Ha ha, even though you have stayed in the battlefield nearby for so many years and have also used so much energy as well as time to treat your wounds, you have merely recovered to early-stage chaotic realm. Thus, who knows how long you will need to recover to your peak. If a day comes when your abilities have really recovered, then, even without you, I would still be able to stand at the peak of this era. Jian Wushuang sneered and his murderous intent did not decrease in the slightest. Chapter 1802. Legend. Dao Yuanzi saw that Jian Wushuang remained aloof and he felt terrified. He quickly thought in his head. Very soon, he spoke again. Jian Wushuang, I know that you carry the ancient god bloodline, but ancient gods actually only possesses a very thin bloodline of ancient tribe. I carry blood essence of a true ancient tribe expert. Besides, I know that there is an ancient tribe expert's dead body in the battlefield nearby. It contains the bloodline inheritance of an ancient tribe. I can bring you there. Ancient tribe? Bloodline inheritance? Jian Wushuang was curious. Humph. What ancient tribe? I have never heard of it before. I think you just made this up and your goal is most likely for me to die at an extremely dangerous place. Do you think I'm stupid enough to listen to you? Jian Wushuang let his murderous intention run wild as he raised Blood Mountain's sword in his hand. No. No. I'm telling you the truth. Dao Yuanzi screamed his lungs out, but Jian Wushuang didn't care and slashed with his sword. In the split moment of life and death, Dao Yuanzi suddenly roared, Jian Wushuang, do you want your brother to come back to life? Vroom. The sword that already had slashed down suddenly stopped in the mid-air. The blade was less than half a meter away from Dao Yuanzi's head. Jian Wushuang looked solemn as he stared at Dao Yuanzi. What did you say just now? Come back to life. Dao Yuanzi continued. You are furious because one of your brothers and the other two close relatives died, right? Yes, they died, but they could come back to life. There's a legend that says that on the peak of the universe, there's a super existence on equal footing with Heaven Wei. They could reverse space-time and bring the dead cultivators back to life. Legend? Jian Wushuang's gaze turned cold. Are you fooling me? No, I'm not fooling you. Back in my time, there was really this legend. If there's a legend, there must really be such a super existence. How could such a super existence pass away so easily? This super existence might be in one of the corners in the battlefield, but in a deep sleep, or in a unique condition. Such as 7-star Black Sect. They are an example of a super sect. Among the top experts in this sect, there might be one who has already reached such a level. An existence of such level is far too ancient. Even if you were to run into them, you might not know them. However, I'm different. Although I was an nonentity back during the war, I was in charge of gathering information. I know many super experts that were involved in the war, and I can recognize them for you. Then, when you wander on the battlefield, it could save you a lot of trouble. I know a lot of information about the war back then, Dao Yuanzi continued. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes after listening to Dao Yuanzi. King of Venomous Worms. What do you think? Jian Wushuang asked for King of Venomous Worms' opinion. Reverse space-time? Bring dead experts back to life? I have never heard of such a technique. This is most likely a lie. Even if it was true, the chances are slim, King of Venomous Worms said. However, there's something Dao Yuanzi said that is right. He is an ancient expert and he is knowledgeable. Hence, he must know quite a bit of secret about ancient times. As for experts from ancient times, he isn't wrong either. The surrounding ancient battlefield is a great treasure. Such a huge treasure, you can't just let it sit in vain. You definitely must wander around. With Dao Yuanzi around, he could save you some unnecessary trouble and danger. Of course, only with the prerequisite that you could control him. If you can't control him, it would be a disaster to you and to the entire Green Fire world. Jian Wushuang was deep in thought. After a short while, Jian Wushuang made up his mind. Dao Yuanzi, do not resist. Jian Wushuang swept out his soul power over Dao Yuanzi. Dao Yuanzi wasn't angry but thrilled. He naturally didn't resist. Very soon, Jian Wushuang left a soul stamp on Dao Yuanzi's soul fire. With the soul stamp, Jian Wushuang controlled Dao Yuanzi's life and death. Greetings, Master. Dao Yuanzi bowed politely at Jian Wushuang. Master, huh? Jian Wushuang smirked coldly. Then, Blood Mountain Sword turned into a lofty mountain. Master, what do you mean? Dao Yuanzi was shocked, but he couldn't resist. He was suppressed by the lofty mountain. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. Dao Yuanzi thought I was stupid? He is an expert from ancient times. He could at least be a great emperor's match, or even beyond. Such an expert is powerful. He didn't have a choice, so he yields to me for now. But once he recovers his power gradually, he might be able to remove the soul stamp. By then, forget about controlling him, my life might be in danger too. Jian Wushuang wasn't sure if Dao Yuanzi had the power to remove his soul stamp, but he didn't dare to take the risk. Hence, even if Dao Yuanzi yielded to him, he would continue to suppress him. Unless there was a day when he could remove Dao Yuanzi's consciousness and soul control him. Just like Lei Chao back then. Lei Chao had been soul-controlled and he was pretty much dead. He listened to the instructions of the controller completely. Only then, Jian Wushuang would be at ease. At the same time, he would consider himself to have taken revenge for Yang Zishuan, Emperor Tang, and Emperor Xiao. However, Dao Yuanzi was an ancient expert after all. His soul was extremely strong. It would be impossible if Jian Wushuang wanted to soul control him in a short time. Before I am able to soul control you, you'd better stay in Blood Mountain Sword. As for your power, humph, don't even think about it, Jian Wushuang sneered. He definitely wouldn't give Dao Yuanzi any chance to recover his power. Even if one day he were to be in danger, he would activate the soul stamp at the critical moment to kill Dao Yuanzi. Phew. A cold breeze howled. The entire universe went quiet. After Jian Wushuang had suppressed Dao Yuanzi, he turned and walked to people from Green Fire Palace. Everyone from Green Fire Palace was extremely excited. Their excitement was not only because Devil Church had been destroyed completely, but also because of Jian Wushuang's power. Too strong. From everyone's view, Jian Wushuang was too powerful. Jian Wushuang was Green Fire Palace's man, and he was truly a mainstay of Green Fire World. With the existence of such a superb expert, Green Fire World was lucky. Chapter 1803, Reformation. The Devil Church was destroyed. In just a few days' time, after the 13 Devil Bloods were massacred by Jian Wushuang and the first Devil Blood as well as Dao Yuanzi was suppressed in the Blood Mountain Sword in succession, the Devil Church was destroyed completely. There was no room for them to struggle. After getting to know about this piece of news, the experts of all the powerhouses in the Green Fire World rejoiced at once. At the same time, a name which had long become a legend spread within the Green Fire World again. This name was Jian Wushuang. It was Jian Wushuang who had disappeared after becoming a legend 50,000 years ago. At that time, he had returned again. As soon as he returned, he destroyed the Devil Church with lightning speed. Within the vast palace in the Green Fire Palace, many higher-ups of the Green Fire Palace had gathered. Moreover, the person sitting at the position at the front, which was also the most central position, was Jian Wushuang. Moreover, even his throne was bigger than those of other people. With regards to that, no one present had anything to say. At the throne, Jian Wushuang took out a Chen Kuan ring with a flip of his palm. This Chen Kuan ring contains some items that I have arranged, and it contains many guides starting from Tao Master to Heaven Master, Universe Master, Universe God, and to Real God. These guides are very detailed. As long as the conditions are met, by following the guides, it will not be an issue for all of you to make a breakthrough to become a Universe God or a Real God. Apart from that, there are quite a number of training resources which include many cultivation techniques, secret skills, and rare books. In addition, there are some treasures which are of great help to the comprehension of doctrines and unique skills. Father, I will give this Chen Kuan ring to you. In the future, please lead everyone slowly and hand down your knowledge. Jian Wushuang handed the Chen Kuan ring over to Jian Nantian. Jian Nantian took the Chen Kuan ring and his eyes glowed brilliantly. As for everyone in the area, all of them revealed a delightful expression. It should be known that in the current Green Fire World, in terms of training environment, it was not inferior to that of the 10 sanctuaries in the eternal chaotic world. In such a good environment, the Green Fire World would be able to produce many genius experts continuously. Moreover, the Green Fire World was beside a huge ancient battlefield which contained an infinite amount of opportunities. Hence, they could explore it. The environment and opportunities were already present. However, if the Green Fire World really wanted to grow, they still lacked one component, and that was guidance. In the Green Fire World, apart from Jian Wushuang, no other experts were born. Currently, the strongest person was Jian Nantian, who was merely a universe god of the second heaven. Moreover, it was extremely difficult for him to reach such a stage. After all, he had relied on himself to explore blindly. However, if there were a complete guide, then it would be completely different. With the combination of such a good environment as well as opportunities, the Green Fire World's speed of growth from then on would definitely be extremely shocking. It's a pity that I did not know that the Green Fire World had already undergone such a huge change. Hence, I did not prepare enough. If not, during my trip of returning here, I could still think of ways to get even more comprehensive guides. Moreover, it will not just be from universe gods to real gods. There will also be guides for void real gods to eternal real gods and then chaotic real gods. Furthermore, I might be able to obtain guides to become an almighty. On top of that, I might also be able to think of some ways to get many training resources that can assist all of you. Jian Wushuang sighed lightly. With his current abilities, if he were willing to, it would be easy for him to create a big powerhouse easily by force. In addition, obtaining some complete guides to training as well as some training resources that acted as support or some places of opportunities that would be of great help to some geniuses would be possible as well. However, he did not prepare for it previously. However, there's no rush. After all, the Green Fire World has only changed for not too long. These guides that I have left behind should be enough for the experts of the Green Fire world to make a breakthrough to become real gods successfully. As for the guides and resources after becoming a real god, after a real god has been born for real in the Green Fire world, I will return to the lineage of Star and get some of them from Hall Master Yuan, Jian Wushuang laughed. As for now, the Devil Church has been destroyed. Moreover, there are also no threats from experts from the powerhouses outside. As such, my Green Fire world will definitely enter a stage of high-speed growth. However, to allow them to grow, there definitely needs to be some form of competition. Hence, the Green Fire Palace, there must be some proper changes to it. Jian Wushuang tapped his chair and his eyes looked down. The large number of experts present looked at one another. All of them roughly understood Jian Wushuang's intentions. Presently, the Green Fire world was completely different from the past. Jian Wushuang had seen the huge potential that the Green Fire world had. To Jian Wushuang, if the Green Fire world were to grow up completely, it might even have an opportunity to be a new cultivation sanctuary that was similar to the 10 sanctuaries of the eternal chaotic world. Of course, before that, there was still a long way to go. Moreover, if a powerhouse or a sect wished to grow, there should be some form of competition. This kind of competition was not just a competition against the outside. There must also be competition within them as well. Naturally, it was the same for the Green Fire world. Jian Wushuang's intentions were to split up the power within the Green Fire Palace to become either many sects or powerhouses, and that they would compete against one another for resources. It was only with this that the Green Fire world would be able to grow at an even faster speed. Of course, no matter how great the competition for resources was, there would always be a premise, and that was the Green Fire world having absolute authority. Just like the Sanctuary Alliance. On normal days, the Sanctuary Alliance would not care about the competition between its powerhouses. Even if a big powerhouse were to destroy another big powerhouse, they would not care about it. However, at the critical moment, with a word from the great emperors who were the higher-ups of the Sanctuary Alliance, all the powerhouses in the Sanctuary Alliance would unite as one to fight for the Sanctuary Alliance. What Jian Wushuang wanted was that he would transform the Green Fire Palace into a huge monster like the Sanctuary Alliance, so that the Green Fire world would achieve the greatest level of improvement and development over the long years. Why, using one word to summarize everything, he wanted reformations. Father, Boss Wang Yuan, I shall leave this matter to the both of you, Jian Wushuang said. No problem. Wang Yuan laughed. Jian Nantian also nodded his head. Before Jian Wushuang returned, Wang Yuan and Jian Nantian had always been the two people with the highest position in the Green Fire Palace. One of them was the #1 alchemist, and his elixirs had aided the breakthrough of many experts of the Green Fire Palace. As for the other person, he was the only universe god of the second heaven. With the two of them taking action, no one in the Green Fire Palace or even the whole Green Fire world would dare to go against them. In no time, the greatest scale of reformation in the Green Fire Palace and the whole Green Fire world began. Jian Wushuang had already stopped concerning himself with the reformation. He believed that his father and Wang Yuan would be able to take care of it well. On that very day, under the guidance of Palace Master Yun, Jian Wushuang came to a special space. In a dark void that was out of cultivation, there were only Jian Wushuang and Palace Master Yun. However, the front of the void that was out of cultivation was dusky. At the same time, there were also many light pearls. For the light pearls, every one of them was extremely important. It was because of the light pearls being joined together and that they were combined in a special way that they were able to cover the whole ancient battlefield. Moreover, they had also spread all the way to the space-time storm nearby, which was a giant formation. And the big formation was the Green Fire world's greatest power. Chapter 1804. Whose head Mr. Wushuang? The formation is controlled by these formation pearls. 50,000 years ago, when the formation first blended in the space-time storm, the power wasn't strong. But as time went by, the formation became more and more ferocious. Now, it has even become the biggest reliance of Green Fire World and also Green Fire World's most lethal tactic, Palace Master Yuan said. Palace Master Yun had been in charge of controlling many formations in Green Fire Palace before the war with Jin Kingdom 50,000 years ago. Until then, Palace Master Yun also knew the changes that the huge formation brought to the entire battlefield the best. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows when he heard what Palace Master Yun said. Jian Wushuang could understand when he had mentioned the biggest reliance, but how had it become a lethal tactic? Mister, you can move your consciousness into the formation pearl to control the formation, Palace Master Yun said. Jian Wushuang nodded and followed Palace Master Yun's instruction. He spread his soul power and moved them into the formation pearls. With the formation pearls, Jian Wushuang quickly took control of the entire formation. The moment he controlled the formation, his heart quivered. Space-time storm. This formation could move about the strength of space-time storm? Jian Wushuang looked surprised. Including the space-time storm around the battlefield, the space-time storm definitely had the power to destroy everything. Previously, Jian Wushuang had thought his master Xianxia had only created the formation to blend into the space-time storm in order to stop outsiders from enter with the aid of space-time storm. Jian Wushuang had always thought it was so. But then, Jian Wushuang had realized that the formation had already almost taken full control of the space-time storm. With the formation, he could move about the strength of space-time storm. Just how terrifying was the power? Lethal tactic. No wonder it could be referred to as a lethal tactic. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands together. He also understood why Devil Church had had scruples with Green Fire Palace back then. They were worried about the formation. It's a pity that the space-time storm has balanced. Once we use the formation to move about the strength of the space-time storm, it will lose balance entirely. By then, it will destroy heaven and death, which means the end of the world. Unless there's a day where the formation can gain full control of the space-time storm completely. However, I wonder how long it will take until there's that level of control, Jian Wushuang muttered. Palace Master Yun by the side also said, the formation has yet to evolve to its maximum, it still has space for improvement. But before that, unless we intend to meet death together with our enemy, we won't use this lethal tactic. Jian Wushuang nodded. Oh yeah, Mr. Wushuang, as you are controlling the formation, you can look at the battlefield via the formation. Take a closer look, you might be surprised. Palace Master Yun smiled mysteriously. Surprised? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He had been wandering in eternal chaotic world for so long, and he was even listed on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List. He had even watched a battle between ancient experts. What else could surprise him? With curiosity, Jian Wushuang started looking around. With the formation, Jian Wushuang could immediately see the entire ancient battlefield. The ancient battlefield was vast, boundless. Jian Wushuang reckoned that even if he were to plunge through the battlefield at his full speed without hindrance, he wouldn't be able to make a lap at the border of the battlefield without a few thousand years. In a huge ancient battlefield, there was a ruin with countless bumps and hollows that was filled with ancient yet mysterious aura. It was impressive. The location of Green Fire World is there. Jian Wushuang looked at the corner of a battlefield. When he looked in the direction of it, his facial expression quickly changed. He was originally calm, but he suddenly became shocked and then dumbstruck. In the end, he looked in disbelief. How is this possible? Impossible. Jian Wushuang let out a low bellow. He was an expert on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List, an existence who possessed the fighting power of an emperor god, and he was knowledgeable and experienced. But then, he couldn't conceal his astonishment. Not only him, but also king of venomous worms who was in harmony with his mind and blood. He was also dumbfounded. Looking at Jian Wushuang's expression, Palace Master Yun smiled faintly and he wasn't surprised. In actual fact, anyone who saw the scene in the middle of the battlefield, or maybe the thing, would be astonished. Unbelievable. Jian Wushuang muttered as he gasped a breath of cold air. He saw the entire ancient battlefield through the huge formation. At the same time, he saw Green Fire World that was right in the middle of the ancient battlefield, but Jian Wushuang also saw that there was an unbelievably huge head there clearly. Yes, it was a head. Chapter 1805. The secrets of the ancient times. Eyebrows were the concentration point of the practitioner's soul and power. For the ancient god clan, for example, their ancient god stars were gathered in the eyebrows. And Jian Wushuang thought it was absolutely not a coincidence that the Green Fire World was just in between. Maybe the Green Fire World was not born from this ancient battlefield, but from this head? Jian Wushuang thought. Jian Wushuang shook his head, considering his own speculation to be crazy. After a more detailed understanding of the surrounding array, Jian Wushuang turned and left. In a secret room, Jian Wushuang sat alone, flanked by Qin Yu and He Xin. Jian Wushuang took the Blood Mountain sword out. Dao Yuanzi. Jian Wushuang's voice spread into the sword. In the sword, 2 people were suppressed. The 2 men were Dao Yuanzi and the first Sir God. What about other people who had been suppressed by the sword before? They had been killed by Jian Wushuang after being tortured. My devil, please figure out some ways to let us escape from this. The first Sir God cried and screamed. He thought Dao Yuanzi would save him when he was stuck in the sword. Unexpectedly, in the end, even Dao Yuanzi had been suppressed. Shut up, or I will kill you. Dao Yuanzi glanced at the first Sir God indifferently. Actually, Dao Yuanzi didn't care whether his subordinate would survive or not. But Dao Yuanzi did want to escape from here, but he didn't have that capability. Now, his own life was at the mercy of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was so vigilant. He left a soul stamp on my body and I couldn't escape his control anyway. He still keeps me here and won't allow me to go out. Yuan Daozi complained. As Jian Wushuang had guessed, Dao Yuanzi could not really surrender to him. The reason why Dao Yuanzi had allowed Jian Wushuang to leave the stamp was that there was no other way for him to survive. Dao Yuanzi was an ancient expert with many resources. As long as his strength was restored, he could easily revoke Jian Wushuang's soul stamp so that he could get rid of Jian Wushuang's control and do whatever he wanted. Unfortunately, his tricks didn't work. Jian Wushuang knew his plan and didn't let him go. Dao Yuanzi. Hearing Jian Wushuang's voice, Dao Yuanzi was surprised but immediately responded with a humble and respectful attitude. Is there anything I can do to serve you, my lord? I have something to ask you. You are a strong talent of ancient times, so you must know a lot about the battles of the ancient time. I will answer with everything I know. Dao Yuanzi responded. Jian Wushuang sneered and thought, Dao Yuanzi is really good at flattering. Before he had been suppressed, he had been arrogant without even noticing Jian Wushuang. But now, he had bent down to Jian Wushuang. Don't expect me to release you. Jian Wushuang thought in private, but he didn't show it to Dao Yuanzi. He asked Dao Yuanzi, tell me, what was the cause of the war? This is the question that had haunted Jian Wushuang for a long time. That was a war so destructible that all things, including the most powerful era, had collapsed. What was the reason for that? And Jian Wushuang wanted to know whether it had something to do with his master. However, Dao Yuanzi shook his head and said, sorry, my lord. The war broke out suddenly and so quickly that many people, including the strong talents, had no idea of what happened, and I only had a tiny role in that battle. So I really don't know the answer. Jian Wushuang was not surprised about the answer. He had also heard from Long Qi that the war had broken out suddenly and many things were still unknown for many people. Dao Yuanzi said, but I know that in the war, many powerful sects united and attacked the terrain of the 7-star Black Sect, which mobilized all their power to fight the enemies. Though the enemies were so powerful, the 7-star Black Sect still managed to contain them. Jian Wushuang was shocked. Now Jian Wushuang could imagine how powerful the 7-star Black Sect was. So what was the final result of this battle? Jian Wushuang continued to ask. But Dao Yuanzi shook his head. Master, the battle was terribly fierce. I am just a nobody. At that time I was so scared that I hid from the war. Jian Wushuang was surprised. Dao Yuanzi had been very powerful in his prime, equivalent to an emperor of the eternal chaotic world. But with that power he was not capable of fighting in the war and had even had to hide. It seems that the ancient time was much stronger than I thought. Jian Wushuang murmured. But suddenly, something occurred to Jian Wushuang. He changed his tone and asked, you mentioned that you didn't participate in the war. But how can you explain your wound? You could only recover after so many years, so it must have been caused by a great power. Chapter 1806, Ancient Behind-the-Scenes Stories. My injury. Dao Yuanzi smiled bitterly. Master, my injury wasn't caused by a vigorous fight with an expert, but when the war was coming to an end, an expert made a formation that was barbaric and extremely terrifying. It forcefully absorbed all my divine power, including my blood essence. Formation? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Not only myself, but many experts who participated in the war also got their divine power and blood essence forcefully absorbed by the formation. After that, I was forced into a deep sleep and started to recover my power over the years. At first, although I was in a bad shape, as long as I am given enough time, I could recover. But who knows, since the war ended, the spiritual energy in the universe became thin at a terrifying speed. In less than 10,000 years, it was thin to a point I never imagined. In such an environment, my injury couldn't recover. Previously, when I created a Blood Devil clone, I spent years accumulating. But now, if the spiritual energy here hasn't become intense again, I don't know how long I have to take to recover, Dao Yuanzi said. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood, but he was shocked. According to what Dao Yuanzi said, there were many ancient experts that hadn't died but were forced into a deep sleep because their divine power and blood essence were forcefully absorbed by the formation. As the spiritual energy was too thin, they couldn't recover. But then, with the formation that his master Xianxia set up, the spiritual energy of the ancient battlefield was recovering quickly. By then, it had already reached the level of the 10 sanctuaries in eternal chaotic world, and it was recovering continuously. According to the recovery rate, it was just a matter of time until it reached the standard of ancient times. But then, the ancient experts who were in deep sleep in the ancient battlefield, would they wake up? Very possible. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. Dao Yuanzi could recover, and the other ancient experts definitely could too. It was just a matter of time. Then, Jian Wushuang continued to ask Dao Yuanzi about the matters in ancient times. As Jian Wushuang got a simple understanding of ancient times, he was ever more astonished. The ferocity of ancient times was totally beyond Jian Wushuang's imagination. After a few questions, Jian Wushuang paused and said, "Last question. Do you know an expert named Xianxia?" Xianxia. Dao Yuanzi's face changed. His eyes looked horrified. It seems like you know him. Jian Wushuang could see the change in Dao Yuanzi's expression through Blood Mountain Sword. "No, I don't know him, but I have heard of him," Dao Yuanzi said. "During the battle back then, although I didn't know the reason behind the explosion of the Wei, I knew that it was related to an expert named Xianxia. Besides, at the end of the war, the person who set up the huge formation to forcefully absorb every expert's divine power and blood essence was Xianxia." What? Jian Wushuang quivered. The formation that appeared in the end of the ancient war to absorb the expert's divine power and blood essence, which caused ancient experts into a deep sleep, was set up by Xianxia. Why? Master, Jian Wushuang muttered. He wanted to know more about ancient times and the behind-the-scenes stories of the ancient war. It was a pity that Dao Yuanzi was only an nonentity in the ancient war. He knew too little. Jian Wushuang couldn't determine what had happened. But Jian Wushuang was sure about one thing. His master Xianxia was definitely related to the ancient war. The formation that could blend in with the space-time storm surrounding the battlefield was also created by Xianxia. Its goal was not only to protect Green Fire World, but also to improvise the environment of the ancient battlefield. In turn, the experts who were in deep sleep in the battlefield could wake up. "Master, who are you exactly? And what are you trying to do?" Jian Wushuang bellowed in his heart. But he couldn't get any answer as of now. He had to grow stronger if he wanted to know. At least, he had to be on the peak of eternal chaotic world that could be evenly matched with Great Emperor. Jian Wushuang shook his head but didn't think further. "Dao Yuanzi, remove owner recognition on your Chen Kuan ring and give it to me," Jian Wushuang commanded. The corners of Dao Yuanzi's lips twitched, but he didn't hesitate. He immediately removed owner recognition on his Chen Kuan ring. Jian Wushuang flipped his palm and Dao Yuanzi's Chen Kuan ring was in his hands. Then, Jian Wushuang immediately started to inspect it. Dao Yuanzi was an ancient expert after all. Although he wasn't anything big in ancient times, he was considered a super expert in eternal chaotic world. The things that he had in his Chen Kuan ring were priceless. Of course, because of severe injury, the elixirs and many natural treasures in Dao Yuanzi's Chen Kung ring had been used up. There was only some unique treasure left. There were also secret skills and rare books. But these things made Jian Wushuang beam with joy. "Ha ha, not bad. In addition to the resources that I obtained from killing many experts over the years, I can make a cultivation sanctuary for Green Fire World. Just like Thunderbolt Island in Sanctuary Alliance, Jian Wushuang laughed. He had killed multiple Sir Gods and even countless real gods. He had obtained countless resources that were suitable for cultivation. With the resources and some unique treasures, he should be able to build a Thunderbolt Island. Of course, the Thunderbolt Island was merely a metaphor. It was definitely not compatible with Thunderbolt Island of Sanctuary Alliance. To Green Fire World, where the strongest person was only a universe god in the second heaven, it was too useful. Even after Green Fire World grew and gave birth to real god, it would still be useful. Just then, Jian Wushuang flicked his wrist and a drop of golden blood essence appeared in his hand from nowhere. The drop of golden blood essence, although its color wasn't pure, the power contained was enchanting, even for Jian Wushuang. As Jian Wushuang looked at the drop of blood essence, the ancient god blood essence in Jian Wushuang's body instantly began to boil too. Dao Yuanzi, this should be the ancient tribe blood essence that you were talking about, right? Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. Yes, Dao Yuanzi nodded. I happened to get it by chance. It is blood essence of a pure ancient tribe expert. However, the ancient tribe expert wasn't strong, merely middle-stage chaotic realm. When I needed to recover my power in deep sleep, I consumed all elixirs and natural treasures, but I couldn't absorb the drop of ancient tribe blood essence. Chapter 1807. Wushuang City. What do you mean by saying that ancient gods were just a small bloodline of ancient clan? Jian Wushuang asked. First I will explain the ancient clan. I mentioned that in the battle in the ancient times, there were many powerful clans uniting against 7-star ancient gods, and ancient clan was one of them. The inherent advantages of the ancient clan were much greater than those of the same level. Because the inherent advantages were so great, the clan was the most powerful one among the 4 great clans at that time, despite its relatively low number of members. And the ancient blood lineage that you have also derives from the ancient clan. After a pause, Dao Yuanzi continued. Besides, as ancient gods, the ancient clan also had the blood lineage of ancient demons and the ancient devils. Only the combination of these 3 different bloods can compose a complete lineage of the ancient clan. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang asked, that is to say, my bloodline of the ancient gods is not comparable to the blood of the ancient clan? Of course not. Even if you grow into the 10-star ancient god, your blood will still not be less powerful than that of strong talents of the ancient clan. Dao Yuanzi said. Jian Wushuang was shocked. 10-star ancient god. Wasn't that the legendary ancient god emperor? The ancient god emperor was supreme and incomparable among ancient gods. But he was still far weaker than members of the ancient clan. My lord, I once told you that in the ancient battlefield, there is a corpse of a strongman from the ancient clan, with the lineage of the ancient clan. You can inherit that lineage, which is far better than yours, if you go there. Dao Yuanzi said. Where is the corpse exactly? Asked Jian Wushuang. Of course I know. Dao Yuanzi nodded. If you want to go, I can take you there at any time. Fine. I will decide later. Then Jian Wushuang put away the Blood Mountain sword. My lord. The Dao Yuanzi was upset. He thought, I have told Jian Wushuang so much but he still distrusts me. A waste of time for me. Of course, Dao Yuanzi only dared to say that in the bottom of his heart. Jian Wushuang was sitting in the secret room. Hey, what do you think? Jian Wushuang asked King of Venomous Worms. I have never heard of the ancient clan before, but from the blood essence you got from Dao Yuanzi's place, I can see that the power of the blood is truly more powerful than yours, so I think he is not lying. As for the corpse he mentioned, he also told the truth because now you can decide his life, but he never mentioned the danger of seeking the corpse. So it is clear that he is hiding some secrets. King of Venomous Worms smiled coldly. Of course, I can see his mind. But don't worry, when I finish the matter in the Green Fire World, I will go to the place he mentioned. If it's dangerous, I will leave directly. Jian Wushuang smiled. King of Venomous Worms nodded. Then Jian Wushuang looked at the blood essence in his hands. I will see how strong this blood is. Jian Wushuang closed his eyes and began to slowly absorb this drop of blood. Dao Yuanzi could not absorb the power of this drop of blood because he had no connection with the clan, but Jian Wushuang could. After all, Ancient gods derived from the ancient clan. 1 month soon passed. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes, and a fierce blast exploded. Dao Yuanzi was right. The blood lineage of the ancient clan is truly more powerful than ancient gods. After absorbing the blood, I feel my ancient god power has become greater. In addition, the 2 ancient god stars between his eyebrows that had been broken in the battle with Dao Yuanzi were repaired. But it is just a drop of blood essence. It is not of great use for me. What is really useful is the blood inheritance from the ancient clan. Jian Wushuang felt a desire to get it, but he didn't hurry. After that, Jian Wushuang mobilized many resources and combined them with his own power to establish a cultivation sacred place in Green Fire World. He located the place in a floating city. Jian Wushuang had put a lot of cultivation resources, including some peculiar treasures, all in the great city and built it with a lot of time and energy. This process took 500 years. Finally finished. Jian Wushuang was satisfied when he saw the splendid building. From now on, this city will be a holy place that many geniuses in the Green Fire World will yearn for. It has countless cultivation resources. Though they are far from being comparable to the Thunder Island of the Holy League or the Star Lineage, they can still be compared with those top places in the eternal chaotic world. In the future, I can continue to perfect this city and attract geniuses in the green world and give them the best training. As for the name of this city, let's call it Wushuang City. Also on this day, the Green Fire World completed the Reformation. A large number of talents who belonged to the Green Fire Palace started their own establishments, but at the same time they still belonged to the Green Fire Palace. The leadership structure also changed. There were 5 new palace masters and on top of them, a top master. Of course, it was Jian Wushuang. After the reform, the Green Fire World gradually grew into a power that could challenge the 10 great cultivation sacred places or the Holy League. Chapter 1808, Crimson Lightning Region Disciple. This is a sword principle that I specially created for you according to the sword intention that you grasped. There is a total of 3 moves in this sword principle, but every move could be evolved into 33 sword stroke. Before you break through and become a real god, study this sword principle and it should be enough. Jian Wushuang passed his communication token to his lineal disciple, Lin Lan. Thank you, Master. Lin Lan took it gratefully. From today onwards, you shall stay in Wushuang City for cultivation. There are many opportunities in Wushuang City and sword principle took up the most. You must work hard, Jian Wushuang exhorted. Then, he looked at Xianxia. Xianxia, from now on, you shall cultivate in Wushuang City as well. There are 2 mystery lands that I created personally. It will be helpful for you too. At the same time, there will be a test in the 2 mystery lands. I will give you 3,000 years time. Within the 3,000 years, if you can pass any one of the tests, I will take you in as my lineal disciple. I will definitely work hard for it. Xianxia was filled with excitement. Besides, as your swordsmanship is at a higher level than your seniors, if you were to be free during the years when you are cultivating in Wushuang City, help your senior along the way, Jian Wushuang said. Yes, Xianxia nodded. Junior, sorry to trouble you, Lin Lan said. Senior, don't mention it, Xianxia smiled. Jian Wushuang saw the scene. Although it wasn't shown on his face, he sighed in his heart. Although Lin Lan and Xianxia were his disciples and Lin Lan was his lineal disciple, in terms of talent, Lin Lan was born in Eternal World. She was considered decent in Green Fire World, but she couldn't reach the peak. Compared to Xianxia, she was far behind. Even with Jian Wushuang's guidance, specially created sword principle, and the assistance of resources in Wushuang City, she would at most reach real god level and only be a void real god. It required luck to a certain extent to become a void real god. As for eternal real god, unless one received an opportunity, one wouldn't stand much chance. As for Xianxia, he was God's favored one. Not only was he talented, but his disposition was mature. He was under Jian Wushuang and he had only been a registered disciple, but he was never anxious or impatient, nor did he complain. Even when he saw that Lin Lan was Jian Wushuang's lineal disciple, Xianxia wasn't jealous at all. Jian Wushuang appreciated this the most. If it was said that Lin Lan could only become a void real god at most, Xianxia definitely had the potential to become an almighty. Of course, To reach that level required a lot of time and effort. However, I have always been casual when it comes to taking in disciples. Regardless of talent, as long as I click with someone, no matter what their achievement is, they are my disciples. Jian Wushuang smiled and waved his hands. Go ahead. He Xiao and Lin Lan walked to Wushuang City right away. Not just them, but as Wushuang City was built, Green Fire World had already started filtering geniuses. Actually, to be frank, it was a genius assembly. The genius assembly would happen every 1,000 years from then on. The ones who had performed outstandingly would stand a chance to cultivate in Wushuang City. Of course, the threshold to enter Wushuang City was naturally high. It was also to increase the intensity of competition between all forces in Green Fire World. After Jian Wushuang had settled everything in Green Fire World, he went to Ancient World's Divine Land alone. However, it was a pity that two ancient worlds had gone through drastic changes in tens of thousands of years. When Jian Wushuang returned to Divine Land, he felt foreign. In the end, he only found Sword Marquis Mansion's man with the assistance of Ancient Sect. As 10 of thousands of years passed, Sword Marquis Mansion no longer existed, but only a few descendants were left behind and scattered around. Jian Wushuang had mentally prepared for it long ago. It is good enough that their bloodline has carried on. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Back when he had entrusted Ancient Sect to take care of Sword Marquis Mansion, he had told them to ensure that Sword Marquis Mansion would carry on the bloodline. As for the rise and fall of Sword Marquis Mansion, it didn't matter. Even the great forces in Eternal Chaotic World would fall one day, let alone Sword Marquis Mansion in Ancient Worlds. Jian Wushuang didn't stay for long in Ancient Worlds, and he left right after. Then, Jian Wushuang went to the ancient battlefield at the border. Jian Wushuang was also attracted by the bloodline inheritance of ancient tribe experts. Under the lead of Dao Yuanzi, Jian Wushuang arrived at a region where it was covered in crimson lightning. If I'm not mistaken, this should be Crimson Lightning region? Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. Dao Yuanzi, the ancient tribe dead body that you mentioned is really in here? My life depends on your whim. How could I lie to you? Dao Yuanzi said. Jian Wushuang's face became solemn. He knew of the territory in front of him. Over the years, a large number of experts from Green Fire Palace had wandered in the battlefield. Hence, the region that they had explored was nothing compared to the entire battlefield. There were some places that were explored, just like the region that was covered by the flashes of crimson lightning. Green Fire Palace had kept a record of it and named it Crimson Lightning Region. Crimson Lightning Region wasn't huge, but merely an expanse of about a few 100,000 miles in circumference. In the expanse of about a few 100,000 miles, it was engulfed in crimson lightning. The flashes of lightning were extremely powerful, and it formed an ocean of lightning. With the coverage of crimson lightning, there was naturally no one who could step foot in Crimson Lightning Region. At least, Green Fire Palace didn't have anyone who had entered Crimson Lightning Region all these years. Those who had barged in were struck by the flashes of crimson lightning and turned into ashes. Hence, no one knew what was in Crimson Lightning Region. The Crimson Lightning Region is interesting. It could seal off my soul power. However, I could feel that although the flashes of crimson lightning in Crimson Lightning Region could kill a real god, it would be insufficient to cause any effect on my divine body. Jian Wushuang kept quiet for a while, then he made a decision. He slowly moved closer to Crimson Lightning Region. The moment he stepped foot into Crimson Lightning Region, the surrounding flashes of crimson lightning hemmed Jian Wushuang in instantly. The power that the flashes of crimson lightning contained felt like it was going to break Jian Wushuang into pieces. However, Jian Wushuang had a shield made of divine power and blocked the crimson lightning off entirely while he continued to approach the depth of Crimson Lightning Region. In a short time, he had already flown past more than half the distance, but he hadn't encountered any danger. Isn't it too smooth? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. The flashes of crimson lightning covering Crimson Lightning Region gave Jian Wushuang a unique feeling. From what he saw, he thought it shouldn't be that easy to shuttle to and from the ocean of lightning, but he didn't feel any hindrance until then. Chapter 1809. Dao Soldiers. Dao Yuanzi, you must have entered the Crimson Lightning Region before. So in the process, what did you encounter? Jian Wushuang asked. No, I was unimpeded all the way. Bloody thunder couldn't hurt me at all, Dao Yuanzi said. Oh, is that so? Jian Wushuang asked doubtfully. At that moment, Dao Yuanzi appeared innocent but actually didn't tell the truth. Idiot! I will not tell you even if it is dangerous. Dao Yuanzi thought. When Dao Yuanzi accidentally came to the Crimson Lightning region and the Thunder Sea, he knew that besides bloody thunder, there were also sacred thunders of extermination, which appeared occasionally. Dao Yuanzi had encountered a sacred thunder of extermination once, but he was immune. But Jian Wushuang will have no time to respond, so he will be doomed to die. Once he dies, I can survive and escape, Dao Yuanzi murmured. Please come, sacred thunder of extermination. But Dao Yuanzi was unaware that Jian Wushuang was vigilant. Once Jian Wushuang was threatened by a crisis, he would not hesitate to kill Dao Yuanzi first. Fortunately, Jian Wushuang did not encounter the destruction of the gods, and the journey to the bloody Thunder Sea was all right. After crossing the Thunder Sea, Jian Wushuang saw a vast open space, in the middle of which lay a huge corpse. This corpse was as tall as tens of thousands of feet. Even though it had collapsed many years ago, it still had an incomparable power. Seeing this corpse, Jian Wushuang got excited. You are not lying. There is indeed a corpse of a strong man from the ancient clan here. Jian Wushuang smiled as he noticed that at the forefront of the huge corpse, there was a grey light in between the eyebrows. The light was very weak, and Jian Wushuang couldn't see what it was. My lord, the grey light should be the blood lineage left by that strong talent, but it is very difficult to get it, said Dao Yuanzi. Oh, what do you mean? Asked Jian Wushuang. On the way to the corpse, there are hidden Dao soldiers, which may have been left by the dead strongman when he collapsed. Those Dao soldiers will prevent incomers from reaching the corpse. I also wanted to approach the corpses, but at that moment I hadn't recovered yet, so I was defeated by the soldiers. So how could you know that the strong man left his blood lineage when you haven't approached it at all? Jian Wushuang questioned Dao Yuanzi. Well, Dao Yuanzi paused for a long time and said, I guessed it. Jian Wushuang knew Dao Yuanzi didn't always tell the truth. But one thing was for sure. There was indeed a grey light in between the eyebrows. Even though it was not lineage blood, it would be very important. How powerful are those soldiers? Jian Wushuang asked. They are weaker than human cultivators, equivalent to the early stage of chaos gems, but on the journey you will meet a lot of them, said Dao Yuanzi. Jian Wushuang was worried. The early stage of chaos gem had the same power as Sir Gods. And there might be many soldiers. It would not be so easy to get to the corpse. Anyway, I will try. Jian Wushuang murmured, and then approached the corpse. But soon, many Dao soldiers with bronze armor appeared. There was a sudden sound as the ground cracked, followed by the appearance of burly figures. These soldiers were all the same in their appearance and size, and they all had a bronze-colored axe in their hands. 6 Dao soldiers in total. Jian Wushuang started to generate his power. At that moment, the 6 soldiers all rushed toward him. Bang! 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 He saw 6 bright bronze lights shimmering, and 6 axes went to Jian Wushuang. Go to hell! Jian Wushuang waved his swords, the power of which forced 6 soldiers back. These Daoist soldiers have only reached the level of the General Sir Gods, and their swordsmanship is just mediocre. They can't stop me. He was only tens of thousands of miles away from the corpse. Usually he could easily pass through the distance, but this time, because of the numerous soldiers, the journey would take longer. The ground split, and many soldiers rushed out one by one. In the instant, Jian Wushuang was surrounded by 100 soldiers. Most of the soldiers were bronze-armored soldiers, but at the forefront there were 4 Dao soldiers wearing silver armor. They were obviously stronger than those in bronze. Jian Wushuang guessed that they would be of the level of an emperor god. At that moment, they all rushed to Jian Wushuang like wasps. Chapter 1810. Wu Hun Jian Wushuang, don't waste your time with them. Just rush over, King of Venomous Worms said in Jian Wushuang's head. I share the same idea. Jian Wushuang concentrated his gaze. As the Dao soldiers charged at him, the billowing ancient god power flowed out. His figure grew tremendously to 3 meters tall. At the same time, there were heads and arms that extended from his body. Ancient god unique skill, 6 heads, and 12 arms. Each and every one of his 12 arms was holding a sword. Besides, there were 2 resplendent golden lights that swept out. They were 2 Hongjung golden swords. Jian Wushuang rushed forward and instantly fought with the Dao soldiers. Bang! 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 There were deafening noises resonating continuously, and there were Dao soldiers flying off from the impact. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang relied on the advantage of his power and strength, and also his close combat skills to move forward in the besiegement. In a short while, Jian Wushuang then landed on the ancient tribe expert's dead body. Then, the Dao soldiers that were chasing after him stopped simultaneously and returned underground. Jian Wushuang smiled at the sight. It seems that the Dao soldiers' order is only to hinder people from getting close to the dead body. As long as the person arrives at the dead body, they will immediately stop, Jian Wushuang said. After barging through the obstruction of the Dao soldiers, Jian Wushuang turned to look to the highest part of the dead body, which was where the dim light was. Jian Wushuang moved and he appeared before the dim light very quickly. At that moment, Jian Wushuang finally saw the appearance of the dim light clearly. It was actually a human figure. Yes, it was a human figure, but the method of existence was extremely unique. When Jian Wushuang came before it, the human figure that looked like nothing suddenly opened its eyes and looked at Jian Wushuang with a strange gaze. Jian Wushuang was stunned. This feeling, is it consciousness? Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and bowed politely. Greetings, Senior. I am Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang? A loud and bright voice was heard from the figure. My name is Wu Han. I am an ancient tribe. Senior Wu Han, Jian Wushuang greeted again. I have been in the battlefield for a very, very long time. It has been so many years, and you are the first to appear before me. Not too long ago, although there was someone who barged in, it's a pity that he wasn't capable enough to come before me. Wu Han smiled faintly. Jian Wushuang understood that the person that Wu Han was talking about should be Dao Yuanzi. The battlefield that he was in was sealed off from the world. Only the people in Green Fire World would wander around the battlefield. However, Green Fire World was still too weak. There wasn't anyone who could explore places like Crimson Lightning region. As a result, Jian Wushuang was the first person that appeared before Wu Han after all these years. I passed away many years ago, but only a slight bit of my consciousness remained. I wonder how the outside world is now. Jian Wushuang, tell me, Wu Han said. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. He briefly told him about everything he knew that had happened after the ancient war, including the new pattern of the world. Ancient times? First era? Second era? Wu Han laughed when he heard. That's interesting. I never expected the world to become like this, especially the strongest expert is only peak chaotic realm. The war back then seems to have had a major influence. Senior Wu Han, you should know a lot about the war in ancient times, right? Jian Wushuang asked. Wu Han's power in ancient times seemed to be much stronger than Dao Yuanzi's. He definitely knew more secrets than him too. Wu Han shook his head slowly when he heard Jian Wushuang's assumption. I do know some about the ancient war, but I can't tell you. Sometimes, it isn't a good thing to know more. Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows, but he didn't force Wu Han. Jian Wushuang, you have an ancient tribe bloodline in you, but it isn't complete. The purpose of your visit today should be about my bloodline inheritance, right? Wu Han asked. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. Bloodline inheritance, I do have bloodline inheritance here, Wu Han said as he flipped his jade-like palm. Then, a pearl that was concentrated with blood essence appeared in his hands. The moment the pearl appeared, Jian Wushuang could feel the ancient god blood in him suddenly boil and shake vigorously. There was an unprecedented desire that soared up. Such desire was the desire for a bloodline. Bloodline inheritance is here. As for if you can get it, it depends on you, Wu Han said. Senior's advice and comments are appreciated. Jian Wushuang was extremely humble. Wu Han smiled and he waved his other hand. On the chest of the dead body under them, there was suddenly a resplendent light. The light was a blurry stone stele. The stone stele gave out an ancient yet magnificent aura, and it was covered with a secret pattern that was complicated and unique. I have been in the battlefield for too long. At first, I really wanted to look for a suitable genius that was outstanding to inherit my bloodline. But as time passed, I dismissed this intention of mine. Now, I am happy enough to just pass the bloodline inheritance to someone. There's no need for a strong, gifted talent. As long as you reach the fundamental requirements, that will do. The fundamental requirement is very simple. The stone stele in front of you contains a secret skill. The secret skill is exclusive to ancient tribe. Its name is Immemorial Celestial Body. It is a secret skill of body refinery. As long as you have complete ancient tribe blood, you can cultivate this. There are 7 volumes in the secret skill. What you need to do now is to comprehend the first volume from the stele. Your time limit is 1,000 years. In 1,000 years, if you are able to comprehend the first volume of Immemorial Celestial Body, I will pass my blood inheritance to you. I have already reduced the threshold to the lowest. If it was when I first passed away, the rule that I had set was for one to comprehend the first 3 volumes in 1,000 years. If you can't even fulfill the lowest criteria, I'd rather my bloodline disappear entirely than pass it to trash, Wuhan said. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded heavily. Then, he turned around and looked at the grey stone stele that was covered in the secret pattern. He took a deep breath and sat down in front of the stele.